What is going on, creatives? Tunji from Ceasar Graphics. Welcome to my weekly design training where I share free design tips with designers. All right. I have this design I received during the week from a designer. I'm going to review the design and I'm going to use this to teach you guys my process on how I achieve successful design projects. All right. So without any further ado, let's start. All right. So this composition here is not really bad, but what I think the designer did here is to focus on the beauty part of the project, which is also part of what you need to do well when putting together your elements. You know, making the project look aesthetic is also what you should, do right in your project. But the function, that is the goal of the project, really need to be 90%. Yeah, it should be 90% in the project. All right. So I'm gonna start with what I noticed that the designer did well here. All right. I like the fact that the information on the project are easy to read, and the reason why it's easy for us to read the information in the project easily is because of the background used is beautiful. The background is bright enough for us to see the content. Now the reason why I always share the good part is so that you guys can always know things that you can apply to your project to help making your project look successful. All right, making your project look successful. So the part of the contrast between the background and what we have on the foreground here is beautiful. I'm talking of the part where we have the information on the project. All right. And yeah, yes, so that's just what I noticed that is working here. Now what is not working in this project is I've mentioned the story part is missing. The brand is into selling of cars. All right. And when you are working for a brand that is into selling of an item or a product, one of the things you need to learn to do as a designer is to make the beauty, the look of that product visible in order to make the viewers or the target audience want to buy the item or the product. But in a case where you are hiding the item, you are not hitting the nail on the head like that. And the reason why I'm saying this here is because of the way the designer positioned the cars here. And I know so many of you have heard of the principles of design. What we use the principle of design to do is to help make the message in our project balance. The element of design are what we use to create the picture. The principles of design are what we use to make the story balance. So whenever you want to put together your elements, take your time to, that's why every designer must understand the principles of design. So the principles of design is what you will now check. Like you will now check, okay, what principle do I need to use in this project to help make the story in this project clear and easy to understand. So here, the project lack perspective, which is also part of the principles of design. Perspective simply means the representing of 3D, the making a 2D object appear as a 3D object on the surface. So here, this arrangement here look more like a 2D arrangement. All right. So I'm saying this here because there's no depth. All right. There's no depth in the placing of the cars. All right. For those of you that don't understand what I'm saying this. Let me use one simple example here. When you are standing close to an object, all right, let's say you have like multiple objects after the object that is close to you, you'll find out that that object that is close to you, you see that object looking, bigger than the other object that are behind you. The reason why that happened is what I'm trying to say here, which is the perspective. All right. So what we use perspective to do in our project is to add depth. All right. Is to make the placing of the element appear in our project the way things appear to us in real life. So if we have the arrangement of cars here like this, I expect the designer to play with the scale or the height of the cars to make the story in the project balance, and also to help make the objects look more 3D like. And one of the ways you can help your viewers to find your project interesting is when you don't see the flat surface in front of you as a 2D surface. When you see it as a 3D surface, which is a 3D, like a window into a three-dimensional world, you are going to make your project look interesting. I've always shared this with you guys so many times, that when you're putting together your elements, what you're trying to do is to create a picture. You're trying to create a scene, like the way we watch movies, where they decorate the environment in order to help make the story they're trying to pass in that particular scene balance. And that's the same principle that applies to how you place your elements. So this is my process on how I was able to make the project look successful. So one of the things I'm always trying as much as possible to make available in my project is contrast. All right. So if you look at the first move I made on the project, you'll notice I duplicated the floor, the floor, and push the layer below the first layer up a bit, in order to use the value of the floor behind the car to make the white car on the floor more visible. All right. And that's one of the tricks I mostly use when I want to, achieve contrast between an object that is on the floor. So the part of the perspective is what I'm doing here. You notice I first made the size of the white car smaller in order to make it look like it is far from the other cars. All right. And that is the part of achieving depth, in graphic design. Then I made the other cars also smaller. All right. Because, we're talking about selling of cars there. So we need to be able to create a project that make the viewers see the beauty of the car, which is the story part of the project, because the message here is to make people want to buy the cars. And that's the idea behind making, the body part of the cars more visible. So because I noticed that there's this separation between the, the floor in the background and the one on the foreground. So I decided to blend, the two layers together to make it look like they belong together. All right. Because if I don't do that, it's going to look like cut and paste. So I noticed the designer did not also pay attention to details, which is also part of what you need to learn to do right whenever you are putting together your element. Whatever you notice that is affecting the success of your design, or that can affect the success of your design, get rid of it. And that's the idea behind cropping the part of the car and, duplicating the tires to actually make it look like, yes, this is real. All right. So that's the idea behind, doing what I'm doing here. So I get rid of all the things that I notice is not right for the project. And see, guys, simple things like this can make your design, can transform your design from looking boring to looking aesthetic. All right. So that's the idea, behind what I'm doing here. All right. So I added shadow, all right, to the floor. Why? Because shadow is also part of how we tell story. And that's why the angle where your shadow is coming from is also important. Yeah, I like the way, the designer played with shadow in the project. So I'm still on the part of getting rid of things that are not necessary in the project. I know some of you may be wondering, oh, Caesar, how did you manage to use the brush tool to make the shadow balance? So what I did was I duplicated the car and convert the first layer, the layer below. I changed the blend mode to multiply, and the layer above the layer below, I added layer mask and apply brush to the mask to take out the area where I don't want visible in on the car. All right, so yeah, I made the background, the floor behind the white car a bit darker because I really want the contrast between the white car that we have on more visible. All right, so that's the reason why I decided to change the value of the floor there to really make it visible. And I'm sure you guys can agree with me that that simple move actually made the car visible. Then I faded the shadow below the white car because it's looking too strong. So this move I'm doing here is still the same as what I mentioned when I was, taking out the white effect below the car. What I'm just doing here now is I'm taking out the area that I don't want on the layer above the layer that I applied the multiply blend mode. And that is what is making us see the background, what we have on the background of the car. All right. Yeah. So yeah, then the other thing I did again here is I applied curve to the tire of this car because you see the tire is on the floor. All right, and then when you have an object on a surface, you see the parts where the surface is resting on the floor, the part where the object is resting on the surface, that part need to have shadow. And that's the idea behind applying curve to the layer and making the curve visible on the tire of the car. Then the red SUV, it's making it look like the tire of the red SUV is not part of the scene. So I decided to apply hue saturation and desaturate the car, and then make the desaturation part of the hue appear on the tire to also achieve unity there. And what I did again here is on the background, I decided to duplicate the abstract design on the background to make the project less heavy, because I noticed there's a particular image the designer used in the background that is confusing because like I always say, repetition is also important in graphic design. It's also part of how you make contrast work. So when you don't use repetition right, it can also affect the success of your design. And that's the reason why I repeated the abstract image to really help make the contrast between what I have on the foreground and the background more stronger. Okay. Yeah, so I took out the red shape from the logos, the car logos. Why? Because, or the brand logos, because I feel it's not necessary. All right, the focus is the car. All right, so you putting a box behind the logo is you telling the viewers that, hey, this is why I'm doing this, because the color used on that area of the project, you use color that is strong, color that reads fast. All right, and you only use that color on information that you really want people to see. Now, if that's the goal, fine, but for me, I feel the promoting of the car brand is not as important as promoting the logo of the brand who is selling the car. All right, so yeah, so that's the reason why I decided to take out that shape behind the brand logos. All right, so for the part of the making the phone number this bold, I want this to be the next level of hierarchy in the project, because I really want people to know who to contact, or the contact of the brand, so they can give them a call and buy the whatever they want to buy from them. And that's the idea behind making the the phone number this bold. This faded part that I applied to this floor here is what actually made this look like this area is far from this side here. All right. So we mostly do this when we want to create distance, if we want to achieve depth when making photo manipulation. So that's the idea behind applying this, to the project. And another reason why I decided to take out that shape behind the brand logo is because you see this area here is like a trap, and that's why you notice we have too many white space around it. So this area is like a trap for the attention of the viewers to quickly read everything you have on that area. So you loading that part there can affect the making people see this information or the information you have here. Now, I'm not saying you should not use shape, all right, but you only use the shape when it's necessary. You only use the shape when you are trying to tell a particular story, or you're trying to pass a particular information in the project. But in a case where we are just using this to make people know that yes, this brand or this brand deals with selling of cars from these brands here, I don't think it's necessary. All right, I don't think using that board is necessary. In fact, let me call it board, because when you use shape like that in your project, they are more like board. They are more like signboard. All right, so I don't think it is necessary for the project. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm glad you made it to the end, and I'm sure you learned something from this tutorial. Now, if you have anything you want to share with me, drop it in the comment section of this video. And if you love the video, give it a thumbs up. If you know anyone that needs this tutorial, kindly share it with them. And if you have not subscribed, remember to hit the subscribe button, and remember to click the post notification bell so you get notified when I post my tutorials. All right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.